this week, one of the things that I've been really thinking through had a little less to do with leading through COVID or anything like that, but just general leading myself well.
Yeah.
And I think it is actually really vital as a leader. And that's the idea that we need to allow the success of others to inspire us, not intimidate us. And I think that if we're ever going to lead others well, we have to always live with that hope that I'm leading people that I'm going to release into things above and beyond what I've achieved. But to do that, I need to totally settle other people's success. And I think it's easy to admire and not be intimidated by people out there. Right. But if we're really honest, sometimes it's a bit harder not to feel intimidated when it's, maybe it's the person that we went to uni with and they're achieving things that we're not yet. Or it's the person who planted a church at the same time as us and their church has quadrupled and ours hasn't yet.
Yeah.
It's very easy we start to try and justify why my situation's different or why that. Like, why bother with that level of thinking? Like, we're just such on the wrong plane. Let's be inspired by it. Let's celebrate it. One of the things that I learned in my life is that there's two things. If I begin to feel comparison rising up in me, and it's just such a toxic behavior, and yet it's something that we all do if we're not intentional to cut it out, and it leads to really toxic thinking. And so one of the things I realized that if I to avoid comparison is to celebrate, and to offer support to other people.
Yeah, definitely.
When I make my life about opening doors for others and supporting them, and when I celebrate others' successes, here's the another thought that goes with it. What enables me to live like that is I want to be able to wake up every day and have nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to prove. If Alex is having brilliant success and Alex's podcast is, just absolutely booming, and the one Alex and I do together tanks, let's celebrate what Al's doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that my values change. I've got nothing to prove. I don't need a certain amount of likes on anything or a certain amount of growth before I can be secure and successful.
Yeah.
I think when we live like that, we're just so much freer. We're able to enjoy the success of others, including
absolutely.
those that are like our siblings, like in life. It's one thing when it's that person out there, or it's one thing when it's the person under you, but when it's your sibling, I reckon that's when it can get gritty.
Yeah, it was funny. I grew up always idolizing my brother, and I just always thought everything he touched was gold, and this constantly his little shadow all through life. And I remember, and it was the first time that this idea even entered my mind, was when we were down in living in Queanbeyan, and me and my brother were living together and playing footy.
Yeah.
And my dad came down, and so when my brother had moved down at 16 and went and finished year 11 and 12. Then I moved down and I just went straight into an apprenticeship. And then I'm chatting with Dad about something, and I think it was probably saying along the lines of, how amazing Daniel is and all of this. And then he was sort of like saying, oh, that's funny because he's pretty jealous of you right now. The fact that you've actually got an apprenticeship and he can see you're working towards something. And he's realising, I better get my act together. Alex is going to have a trade soon, and I'm just working over at the pool part-time and doing some different stuff. And I was just like, what? It sort of blew up my belief system that my brother was this untouchable idol and that I was always going to be in his shadow sort of thing. So then I got him a job with me.
Hey, legend. And you're like, now I've got it, mate.
Yeah, so... yeah, it is funny that way that we pin up people, because chances are they're doing the exact same thing about you, because we base our comparisons in their ideal and we compare it to us at our worst.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem with that way. Well, it's one of the problems. There's multiple problems, but one of the problems with that way of thinking is that I'm never going to arrive.
Yeah.
Well, there's always somebody more successful.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who's bigger, smarter, braver, whatever.